Alright, this anime mixes a bunch of stuff like super strong characters and this whole game world deal. It's about this guy named Suzuki Ichiro, who's basically stuck working like crazy for some big company. One day, he's so exhausted that he ends up snoozing under his desk, and bam, when he wakes up, he's smack dab in the middle of the game he's been working on. And guess what? Now he's super powerful and can take on anything. But in the game world, he goes by a different name, Sato. Suzuki Ichiro is just a regular 29-year-old dude who codes games for a living. One Sunday, he's chilling at the train station, trying to catch his ride to work. But turns out since it's Sunday, train's running early. Typical Suzuki luck, right? He's always slaving away at work, even on holidays. No wonder the guy's single and doesn't have much of a life outside of work. So, he finally gets to the office, plops down at his desk, and starts coding away. But then, his coworker drops a bombshell. Their game project War World is too darn hard for the average player. They want Suzuki to tone down the difficulty. But Suzuki's like, nah, that ain't gonna fly. He suggests adding rewards for completing tough missions without any help. That way, hardcore players can still get their kicks, and newbies won't feel totally lost. His buddy's on board with the plan, so Suzuki's like, cool, let's run it by the client. He's not about to mess with the game's vibe without getting the green light first. During lunch, Suzuki spots a lost kid and helps her out until her mom shows up. Then he goes back to the grind. Late into the night, Suzuki's still slaving away at his desk. Finally, he wraps up his coding and decides to give the game, Freedom Fantasy, a spin. But just as he's getting into it, his coworker calls it a day. The poor guy's been stuck in the office for 3 whole days, and if he doesn't show up at home soon, his wife's gonna give him an earful. Suzuki's feeling a bit jealous when he sees how much attention his buddy's getting for having a wife. But with his crazy work schedule, he doesn't have time to go girlfriend hunting. After wrapping up some project, he dives into the next one without skipping a beat. He's pulling all-nighters, grinding away at his work for 3 straight days. One afternoon, he finally finishes everything on his plate. But just when he thinks he can kick back, his coworker drops a bomb. There's a bug in the inventory. Suzuki's confused because he's pretty sure he fixed it already. Turns out, he was messing around in Freedom Fantasy while his buddy was talking about War World. It's nighttime by the time he sorts it out, and most of his pals have either gone home or crashed at the office. Deciding he's earned a break, Suzuki curls up under his desk and dozes off. But when he wakes up, he's not in the office anymore. He's smack dab in the middle of a desert-looking place that reminds him of the FFL game world. Even his appearance gone back to high school days. He checks out the interface through his eyes and tries poking at some buttons, but nothing's working. Then he figures out he can access the menu by just thinking about it. When he checks his profile, he sees his name Sato, just like the avatar he tried out in the game. But Suzuki still believes this could be a dream. But there's no time for sightseeing because some hardcore enemies, the elite lizard troops, are closing in on him in Dragon's Valley. Being a level 1, Suzuki knows he's no match for them. So, he scrambles to find cover behind a cliff. But even hiding doesn't save him from getting nicked by an arrow. Then the reality hits him. The elite troops keep bombarding him with arrows, so Suzuki ducks and weaves, trying to fight back with whatever skills he's got. But his button-pushing efforts don't do squat, even after trying multiple times. Just when it seems like he's gonna bite the dust from the lizardmen's attack, a bunch of meteors come crashing down on them. Big explosions left and right while Suzuki's cowering behind some rocks. His XP shoots up and levels up like crazy thanks to this godly attack, and somehow manages to survive the lizardmen's onslaught. Once the meteor shower stops, Sato tries to get back on his feet. But there's one lizardman who dodged the meteor shower. This lizard dude tosses a sword at Sato and challenges him to a showdown. Sato's like, fine, bring it on. He grabs the sword and goes at it with the lizardman. During the fight, Sato notices the lizardman's health bar running low. So, he hurls his sword at the lizardman and finishes him off like a pro. After catching his breath from the lizard-slaying action, Sato tries to log out, but no dice. Same goes for saving his progress. But at least his level and skills got a nice boost from taking down those lizardmen. Plus, his wounds magically healed up. Sato tries pulling off the meteor shower trick again. He even set the aim far off, but meteors hit right on top of him. It creates a massive explosion, wrecking everything in sight. Panicking, he switches off the meteor button pronto. Then he checks his inventory and there's some awesome stuff in there. After dealing with the lizardmen, he splurges a bit, grabs a water bottle, and takes a swig cause apparently, it never runs dry. Checking his inventory again, he's rolling in dough. So, he treats himself to some upgrades, makes a cozy fire, and kicks back to chill after his crazy lizard fighting adventure. Our guy decides to do some detective work on the game's mechanics. Next morning rolls around, wanting to explore this world, and he's off to Warrior's Fortress. It's a long trek, taking a full day and night to get there. But hey, he finally arrives the next day, only to realize he's pretty close to Saru City, near the kingdom. On the way, he spots tons of soldiers, with the big shots at level 31 and the rest averaging around level 7. But just when he's checking out the scenery, a wild wyvern swoops in and attacks out of nowhere. He takes a tumble, but weirdly enough, he doesn't feel a thing. Before the wyvern can strike again, he tosses a pebble at it, scaring it off towards the city. Realizing it's cause of him, he rushes to the rescue. Sadly, he's a tad late cause the wyvern's already causing chaos, freaking out the soldiers. At first, he couldn't understand a word they're saying, but then he leveled up his language skills using skill points. In the midst of the chaos, this soldier named Xena tries to go all heroic on the wyvern, but it knocks her down hard. Our guy, Sato, leaps into action, scooping her up just in time. They land safely on a nearby branch, and once Xena's back to her senses, they get to chatting. Turns out, Xena's a mage soldier stationed in Saru City. Right after that, Xena's buddies, Lilio and Iona, show up and give Sato the side eye. But Xena vouches for him, saying he saved her life. Then Iona starts grilling Sato about who he really is. Quick on his feet, Sato spins a tale about being a traveling merchant who lost all his stuff in the meteor shower chaos. They bought it, and off they go to the city on a cart. On the way, they catch sight of the soldiers flexing their muscles, having taken down the wyvern and all. When they hit the city, Xena promised to repay his kindness by showing him around the city, and he didn't have a say in it. After Xena left, Iona helped Sato with the whole residency registration thing. But here's the kicker, in the official docs, he's still at level 1, which is good. If they find out he's level 310, hell would break out. After sorting out the paperwork, Sato bids farewell to Iona and others. Iona suggests he crash at the gate inn near the entrance, so he's off in that direction. But before he gets there, this girl named Martha pops up and drags him to crash at her inn. Even though she was 13, she was so mature for her age. They roll up to the inn, and Sato meets Martha's mom. He grabs a room and orders some grub. Martha's mom spills the beans about the meteor shower freakout, and how folks thought it was the demon lord stirring up trouble. Sato's mind's blown, cause he didn't realize there was a demon lord in this fantasy realm. But Martha's mom reassures him that the hero took care of it ages ago. She tells him about frequent wyvern attacks, and the black dragon attack years ago caused mass destruction in the city. After chatting about the demon lord, wyverns, and dragons, Martha's mom bounces, leaving Sato to chow down. Soon enough, Martha pops back in, and Sato's all about getting the lowdown on where to snag his daily essentials. Martha's pumped to show him around the city, so off they go, exploring every nook and cranny. As they're strolling along, they spot two little demi-human slaves getting harassed by some dude. The guy's all worked up and starts giving them an earful. Sato steps in, tells the guy to chill, and helps the little ones tidy up their firewood. They thank him and scamper off to find their sister. Martha seemed kinda shocked to see Sato being all nice to demi-humans. Turns out, folks aren't too fond of them cause they used to cause trouble for farmers back in the day. After that mini-drama, they hit up the market. Sato haggles with a merchant and manages to snag a sweet deal on a hair clip for Martha. She's impressed. They keep strolling, and Martha shows him this dragon mask they use during harvest festivals. Then, this crafty merchant starts pitching a wig to Sato, claiming it's for the people who fancy hero's damsel in distress. Sato falls for it and buys both items, even though they're pretty useless. On the way back to the inn, Sato spots this slave girl named Arisa hopping on a cart. They share a momentary stare, but she vanishes before he can say anything. Back at the inn, Sato bumps into Yuni, a little girl who works there. He gives a tip to Yuni and heads to his room. Later he chows down on his grub, takes a much-needed nap, but as he's drifting off, he can't shake the feeling that this whole fantasy world might just be too real to be a dream. So, he tries poking around the menu, but nada. Then he decides to hit the streets and do some pondering and reached a vantage point to see the whole picture of the town. He's mulling over whether beating the game could zap him back to reality. But then he remembers, nah, this game doesn't have an endgame. So, he shifts his focus to just exploring this crazy world some more. Next morning, Martha's shaking him awake, blabbing about his girlfriend downstairs. Sato's scratching his head, trying to figure out who she's talking about. Turns out, it's Xena, who's got some free time and wants to show him around the city as promised. They hit the streets, and Xena insists on buying some croquettes, but Sato ends up footing the bill. She's all about repaying him for saving her life yesterday, but he's like, nah, no biggie. They sat down at the park, chowing down on their crunchy snacks. Then they go on a foodie adventure, trying out all sorts of grub. Sato's eyes light up when he spots some fried dragon wings on the menu, but turns out, they're just bat wings doused in soy sauce. As they're about to dig in, some kid accidentally jostles Xena, splattering sauce all over her blouse. But a mage swoops in offering a magical laundry service. They duck into an alley for a quick cleanup. After the spell, Xena's blouse is as good as new. Back to wandering, Sato's curious about Xena's magic. She starts rattling off some theories that leave him scratching his head. Turns out, she's been studying magic since she was knee-high to a grasshopper. She's loving every minute of it, cause magic's like her ultimate sidekick. Meanwhile, Sato just wanted to use magic for bathing, which earned him the buffoon title. Xena's dreaming of learning flying magic, and Sato's like, hey, that'd be a blast for a date. She turns all red-faced and tells him to hold his horses, till she can actually fly. After strolling around the market, they hit up the fort, and from up there, Sato spots a windmill smack dab in the heart of the city. Xena spills the beans that it's a wheat mill, or during wyvern attacks, it can be quickly changed into a battery. She suggests they check it out, but first, they swing by a temple on the way. Inside, there's this epic pic of a hero duking it out with the demon lord, wielding a holy sword that glows blue. Legend has it, only a true hero can make that sword shine blue. Suddenly, this priestess named Orna pops up, dropping some serious wisdom about the whole hero gig. Turns out, defeating the demon lord ain't as easy as just swinging a fancy sword. Orna explains that only a hero summoned by the goddess Parlian can get the job done. Xena introduces Sato to Orna, who's like the head honcho at the temple, worshipping the goddess Parlian. In the middle of their chat, Orna gets called away to heal someone, and they bid her farewell. On their way out, they bump into the owner of the cart horse, and while Xena's busy bargaining, Sato sneaks a peek at his own titles. And guess what? He's racked up some pretty hardcore ones, like Godslayer, and a bunch of others. So, Sato has this lightbulb moment, realizing he can use his meteor shower move to take down some serious foes. But he's smart enough to keep things low-key, not wanting to draw too much attention to himself. They hop on the cart horse, and on the way, Xena spills the beans about these anti-dragon towers scattered around. Apparently, they're armed with cannons that'll blast any dragon dumb enough to get too close. But there's this one tower that's seen better days, thanks to a run-in with a mini-dragon. And get this, there was even a black dragon that appeared 40 years ago, straight up busted even outer walls. Sato's all ears, asking if the hero showed up when that went down. Xena explains that the hero only gets summoned if the demon lord makes a grand entrance. And she drops another bombshell: every generation faces off against different demon lords. Some can control beasts, while others got a hold on the demon race. He learned only magic and magical weapons work on demons. They roll up to this place where a bunch of folks are gathered round, listening to this priest dude from Zykuan Temple. The guy's spewing hate speech about demi-humans, calling them demons and all, selling stones to throw at M. In the middle of the crowd, Sato spots 3 demi-humans chained up, and people start chucking stones at M. Xena springs into action to shield the poor demi-humans from the barrage. She even gets an earful from the priest for daring to stand up for M. Sato's jaws drop as he watches Xena leap into action. Not one to sit on the sidelines, he starts scanning the crowd. Spotting some troublemakers, he starts hauling them off one by one. Meanwhile, a priest from the Galoran temple shows up, backing Xena's play. He calls out the priest for breaking royal rules by torturing demi-humans. While Sato's busy taking out sewer rats, he spots the ringleader and drags him into the spotlight. Turns out, this guy, Ertz, is the real troublemaker. He's been lending out his demi-human slaves to that priest, selling off supposed sacred stones, and riling up the masses using sewer rat people. Suddenly, things take a dark turn when this dude Ertz transforms into a demonic figure. Everyone freaks out and bolts. Sato rushes over to the demi-humans, urging them to run, but they're trapped by their master, Urza's orders, who's got M chained up tight. Sato checks their status and sees that Ertz is dead, which means they're free to go. He breaks their chains, but the demon starts casting demonic magic. Xena and some soldiers show up to take down the demon. Sato tries to intervene, but it's too late. They get sucked into a magic circle and poof, they're off to the demon nest. Now, Sato's stuck with the 3 demi-humans. After patching M up and giving M fresh threads, Sato names M, Pochi, Tama, and Lisa cause they didn't have proper names before. With their wounds tended to, they thank Sato for being so nice. Now, it's time to figure out the next move. Sato figures out a way to bust out of the dungeon and even tracks down where Xena and the soldiers ended up. And that previous demon has vanished into thin air. Then he checks out the demi-humans with him, and it turns out Lisa's the only one with any fighting chops. So, he hands her a dagger and they start navigating the labyrinth. Sato's got Tama and Pochi using their super senses to sniff out anything fishy, while Lisa's on lookout duty at the back. After a while, they catch wind of something sketchy up ahead. They sneak a peek and spot a monster chowing down on some poor soul. Lisa suggests they sneak past while the monster's distracted, but Sato decides to go full Rambo and blasts the thing with a magic weapon. He swears them all to secrecy about it, though. Later on, Sato whips up a spear from the monster's skin and makes it perfect with upgraded skills. Lisa snags a core from its guts. Turns out, that cores are like its power source and can fetch a pretty penny at the store. Sato breaks the chains off the demi-humans and arms them up, with Lisa teaching Tama and Pochi how to collect monster cores for some sweet loot. Well, that's the end of part 1 of this recap series, so stay tuned for the rest and I'll catch you in the next one.